When you look at the concerns surrounding Italy, are investors misjudging it, or is this really the big hotspot? Could it all go wrong if the leaders of this country decide to take on the EU when it comes to budget rules?
As far as I can see, Italy is always one of the leading countries in Europe, one of the countries that takes a responsibility for our collective European future. And to date, I have no indication that this is going to change. The government have made some declarations in the last couple of days saying that they would stay within the budget rules of the European Union. They're working on their budget for next year now. Of course, we will study it and judge it once it is ready. But the fact that government is saying that they want to stay within the European rules is a good sign.
What if they push the bounds to what is acceptable to the European Union?
Well, you know, the thing is, the rules are very clear. They have not been imposed by us. They have been agreed between all the member states. Our role is to be like a referee in a football game. We have to check whether member states actually apply the rules. Over the last years, we've applied flexibility in light of the economic difficulties many of the member states have had. Italy was one of the countries with which we've had extensive dialogue and always reached a consensus. And I have no reason to assume that this will not be the case this time round.
Poland has also been pushing the boundaries in a different sense because of the court revamping. What's your relationship with Warsaw right now?
Well, we are in strong disagreement with their attempts to put the court system under political control. We strongly believe that independent courts are necessary in open democracies. They are part and parcel of fundamental rights of European citizens, and they're absolutely necessary to make the EU function, because independent courts are also indispensable to have a uniform application of EU law. So we're trying to convince the Polish authorities to change course, to stop trying to put the whole judicial system under political control, and we will continue until we have a success.
In Hungary, you have a president there that's talking about neoliberal states. How much do you worry about Italy about Europe breaking apart?
Well, what I worry about most is that in some societies there seems to be an idea that you need to trade off security against liberty. That, you know, you can't be secure if you're completely free. And there should never be a contradiction between the two. I believe that our liberties, we fought for these liberties so strongly, especially the countries who suffered under communism until 1989. It took them so many efforts to get this liberty, and let's not trade in this liberty for a false sense of security. Liberty should always be pair on pair with security. You cannot distinguish the two. And that is where I fundamentally disagree with this idea of so-called illiberal democracy, because at the end of the day, it just means unfree democracy.
But are we going to see more states in Europe becoming governed by populist politicians? And what does that mean for Europe remaining intact?
Well, what I see in many countries is that this sense of anxiety, this fear that is being instrumentalized by certain political movements, leads people to sort of consider this, what I would call Faustian deal between trading off liberty for security. And we need to, this is a bad place to be in. You know, if you're serious about politics and you see that people are fearful, people fear the future, you should do everything to take away their fear. You shouldn't just chain them to that fear for your own political means. And that's what I see happening at the extreme right all over Europe, that they're chaining people to their fears to just get the power and use the power against the liberties of people. And I think we should resist that. I strongly believe there's a vast majority of Europeans who don't want that, but they need to see that this is happening.
But we also have a big, of course, global viewership looking at us, and they sometimes wonder what is the purpose of Europe. The UK wonders a lot what the purpose of Europe is. What is the message Europe now has to give to its voters?
Well, the purpose of Europe from the very start was to take leave from the mistakes we made in European history. You know, the only way of dominating Europe over centuries was by waging war with your next-door neighbours. After two suicidal wars in the last century, Europeans decided to change course and to say, I will link my destiny to the destiny of my neighbour. If my neighbour's not doing well, I'll be in trouble. And what I see now with these nationalist movements who believe that every solution is just a national solution, they're creating enemies across the border again. They're trying to revisit European history. We should be doing that. We should understand that the EU is the best answer yet to this challenge Europeans always have of finding common solutions. Until there is a better answer to this challenge, I think we should stick with the European Union. We're a smaller part of the world every year. We're no longer the dominating part of the world. Other parts of the world, thank God, other parts of the world are doing much better than in the past. And we should be a partner for them. We should not be squabbling internally. We should form one European front to make sure that the values shared by Europeans are defended on a global stage that is becoming more difficult for everyone.